風間楓。よろしくね、ゆうやくん。
バカ、どこ蹴ってやがる。怪我とかしてない？
ボールが飛んできちゃって当たるって思ったら、その時ゆうやくんがこうピュンってきてボーンって、それでそのままゴールしちゃった。彼女ってどんな人なのかな。まだわかりませんけど。
Source: I got a cheat skill in another world. Welcome back to Anirecaps. Like and subscribe so you never miss our quality uploads. The story starts on a stormy day in the real world. Yuya Tenjo, a young boy, thinks about how he wasn't welcomed by the world, even from a young age. But even so, someone like him still wants to help people, even if it's just a little. Or at least that's what he thought. As he's walking home, he sees a girl getting harassed by a group of guys outside of a convenience store who are trying to force her to have a drink with them despite her protests. MC approaches and tries to get them to stop, but he's quite overweight and speaks in a nervous stammer. He's not much of a threat, but his presence angers the group. The guy's attention shifts to him and they proceed to beat him up while the girl looks on, horrified. The sound of sirens fills the air as he collapses into a heap on the ground. When the police arrive, the gang runs off while the girl tries to help MC. He says he's fine, however, and staggers off while the police and the girl watch. Yuya thinks about what his grandfather told him. We must be kind to the people in need, and sometimes it takes courage to do so. He knows his ugly appearance is irritating to those around him, and he's been called dirty and filthy since he was a kid. Not only did his classmates bully him, but also his parents, who treated him much worse than his beautiful younger brother and sister. For example, they forced him to keep his clothes separate from theirs when doing laundry, never thinking of him as really human. In middle school, the harshness around him escalated even further, as his classmates even shoved him into trash cans. His house now has insults scrawled on the door, while the inside remains dimly lit and dirty, save for the shrine to his grandpa. He was the one who always took care of him and guided him through life. Never let any adversity get the best of you. He'd said, even when things get tough, your happiness will surely come if you are kind to others. Don't rush things, slowly face yourself and live. His grandfather's passing devastated him, but he was left with a sizable inheritance. His parents came to take even this away, but his grandfather had prepared for this, and with the help of a lawyer, they were unsuccessful. Enraged, they abandoned his upbringing completely, leaving Yuya to fend for himself. He lived alone and became a part-timer, working tirelessly every day. Even then, things kept getting worse. At his school's 61st graduation ceremony, MC's diploma was filled with hateful words, and despite attempting to run away, his middle school bullies still caught up to him and beat him up. He told them he had a part-time job he had to get to quickly, but they didn't care and kicked him around while his classmates watched from afar. MC only woke up when the sun set, bruised and bleeding. When he got to his job late, his boss saw his sorry state and told him to skip the next day. That night, Yuya eats ramen by himself, looking at his reflection in the water. When he's done, he goes into the bathroom to clean himself up, but he ends up snapping, finally overwhelmed by everything that's happened to him. What do you mean, graduation? He cries, punching the mirror until it shatters and cuts his hands. Nothing will change from here on out. He punches the wall this time, but something clicks and he watches in astonishment as a secret room is revealed, filled with exotic items and artifacts that he's never seen before. Yuya remembers his grandfather was always visiting various places around the world and thinks this might be where he kept all of that stuff. At the far end of the room is a strange door. Upon opening it, he finds yet another room and is greeted by a blue text box that causes him to fall back in surprise. As you can imagine, he's just entered another world. Like a certain anime with sword artwork online, the systems appear much like a video game. MC gains many skills like an appraisal, door restriction, and cash out. When he takes a look at his status, he's shocked to find all his stats at level 1. Even in this world, huh? As he sighs, he goes to assign points to his status and investigate his item box. He then looks outside and takes in the scenery, as well as a note written in a strange language from his grandfather. Using a translation skill, he learns that the owner of the house died, leaving ownership of everything, including what's inside, to the person who finds it. Thus, MC has gained a new house. This ownership is automatically reinforced with magic, so nobody can break in except for the owner. How convenient. He wonders who the sage was who created this place and explores the rest of the house. In another room, he finds a store of dangerous weapons and he grabs a sword before going outside. MC goes into the yard and starts swinging his sword around, gaining more and more skills as he tries and fails at using each weapon. A sword, a spear, a scythe, gauntlets, and a bow are all added to his skill list, leaving him at the beginner tier. He gains even more skills, such as true martial arts, and adds all of the weapons except for the spear into his inventory. Just then, there's a hideous roar and a bloody red ogre charges him, stopped only by the invisible barrier around his house. MC falls to the ground in fear, but slowly regains his footing as he realizes he's safe, at least for now. Of course, that confidence is quickly lost as the ogre seizes a large tree and slams it into the barrier before continuing to swipe at it more. Not knowing what else to do, Yuya takes up his spear and prepares to throw it at the monster, not really expecting much. There's a flash of light, and when he looks up again, he sees the spear has blasted a hole in the ogre's chest, killing it instantly. He falls to the ground, hands shaking and laughing nervously, watching the monster disintegrate. With that single kill, he's gained an absolutely unfair amount of stats and equipment, as well as a large amount of points to allocate. He doesn't know what else to do, so he takes the time to rest and prepare to go home. As he reaches the threshold, another menu appears, reading cash out. Curious as to what would happen, he accepts and is immediately granted several thick wads of cash. Yuya is shocked for a few moments, but hey, he's already found a door to another world in his grandfather's bathroom and slain an ogre with mythical tier weapons. What more could he expect? He just gratefully takes the money and steps through the door, back into his original world. Immediately, something feels off. He starts to scream as his body itself begins to change the form, his bones realigning and his cells all begin to shift around. Tings of red filled his vision as he's racked with unimaginable pain that causes him to black out. When he opens his eyes again, it's morning, and as you might have guessed, he's become completely ripped and gained muscles that resemble that of a top-tier athlete. He spends the morning examining himself, realizing his body has changed. Unfortunately, when he goes to the bathroom, he finds the glass shattered and brushes it off, saying he doesn't want to see his face anyways. Little does he know, everything physical about him has changed. This means he needs new clothes. But fortunately for him, his skills seem to remain even back in his original world, and he's able to magically obtain a new outfit. His field of vision has increased due to his new height, and his appraisal skill now lets him analyze a lot of the plants his grandfather was growing. Just by looking at them, he can tell their effects. When he re-enters the other world, he spends his time farming and killing any creatures that might come his way. Each one falls with a single blow from his weapon, letting him quickly get back to the important stuff like farming. These monsters drop lots of materials and equipment that he's more than happy to take. Thus, his level goes up more and more. When he returns to his original world, he orders a uniform for his high school entrance ceremony before going back to the new world and exploring the nearby area. With the vegetables he's grown and some meat, he's able to make a bunch of really delicious foods. While he was originally nervous about going to high school, he was able to distract himself in this new world and almost completely forget about his first day at school. Using the drops from the monsters, Yuya came up with a plethora of different dishes, using ogre meat or slime, which all tasted so much better than they appeared. When he wasn't cooking, farming, or defending himself from monsters, he spent his time experimenting and practicing with the weapons he'd found. The previous owner of the house, the sage, had left quite an impressive arsenal which MC was more than happy to use. As time went on, he even started venturing further and further from the house itself, taking on an elite goblin that was outside his fence using some skills he had learned. His favorite weapon remained the spear, which he could use much easier than before. After slaying the creature, he gathered its drops in his inventory and returned home. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to level up, so he just returned home in preparation for the high school entrance ceremony. Besides, he thinks, no matter what happens in this other world, nothing can change his situation in his original world. Yuya sets off to school the next day, ready for the usual harassment that he was sure would follow. Little did he know, he's not even close to the guy he used to be. Now he's tall and handsome, and the talk of everyone he passes on the street. This is not the victim of bullying. This is literally an athlete or a model. He tries to explain his identity to his bullies when he sits down in class, but when they're surprised, he rushes into the bathroom where he finally realizes what he's become. In the house that Yuya Tenju's grandfather left for him, he found a secret room with a door connected to another world. He kept leveling up in this new dimension, and it affected his body back in the real world as well. Yes, he's ripped and has an 8-pack. Kaori arrives at his school and immediately asks to see him. Suddenly, he's popular with girls. She notices he's slimmed down, but Niju doesn't seem to recognize her. She reminds him they met before at the convenience store when she was surrounded by men and he rescued her. She wanted to thank him and thus had him investigated. Nice excuse to stalk someone. However, Yui's siblings, Sora and Yuta, notice Kaori's uniform and deduce she belongs to the elite school Alcea Academy, and she formally introduces herself. She serves as an officer on the Alcea Academy Student Council, and her father is a member of the Academy Board. When her father heard Yuya had saved her daughter from the ruffians, he immediately invited him to attend Alcea Academy. She really is a daddy's girl. Yuya thinks he didn't really save her, and neither does he have the academic capabilities to enroll at such a prestigious institution. His siblings quickly interrupt and ask if they can attend instead, since they'd be better than Yuya at both academics and sports. I wonder if they're real siblings. However, Kaori quickly puts them in place and says she would never stand anyone putting Yuya down since she's greatly indebted to him. Moreover, both of them have been thoroughly researched, and their daily words and deeds are quite demeaning. It's about time they face the consequences of their actions. Kaori then explains to Yuya that the academy prioritizes the strength of character over academics, and thus he would be a great fit. Her butler recommends Yuya should be given a tour instead of just standing and talking. That sounds like the perfect wingman, and Kaori pulls him into her luxurious car. They leave, and everyone who bullied the poor guy at his previous school stands watching in jealousy, including Sora and Yuta. Definitely serves them right. They arrive at Alcea Academy, where every student excels in one field or the other. They'd make up a perfect classroom of the elite. Yuya feels insecure, like he'll never have any connection to this world, but he's mistaken. He is guided to the chairman's office where Tsukasa Huju introduces himself and thanks him for visiting. He claims Sori has spoken highly of him, and he bows respectfully to show his gratitude for saving her. He gets awkward and uncomfortable, but Sori says while everyone else looked the other way, he was the only one who did anything on her behalf. Tsukasa praises his character, but Yuya is still unsure he belongs at a school for geniuses. Someone please raise this guy's self-esteem. Tsukasa tells him a genius is someone who is just like everyone else in other ways, but when engaged in a task, finds the right way to direct his efforts to complete it in the best way. Yuya argues because he feels that inborn talents are more important than hard work. But Tsukasa says while everyone does have their particular skill set, it's more important to face challenges. If this doesn't convince him, I don't know what will. Tsukasa offers Yuya can spend the day on a trial enrollment when Miss Sawada enters. She's really too pretty to be a science teacher. Tsukasa says he'd like Yuya to experience her class since they are easy to understand. She's super amazing and quite popular with the students. Yuya agrees but stands hesitant outside the classroom, afraid that he'll always be the odd one out. Miss Sawada calls him inside, and he prolongs the moment as much as he can before he finally enters. Yuya introduces himself to the entire class and everyone is silent, making him extremely nervous and start overthinking about how much they already hate him. They have a completely different perspective entirely. The girls are shaken by how handsome he is while the boys believe a formidable rival has arrived. Miss Sawada instructs him to sit at the back of the class and asks a girl, Hudo, sitting next to him to share her book. Of course, his first thought is she hates him too. Kaori wonders how Yuya is doing and getting along with the others, and she's in a different class. Miss Sawada continues to teach, and he notices the students are more responsive as compared to his previous school. At break time, Yuya is surrounded by his new classmates who bombard him with all sorts of questions about his current school, clubs, and even his current relationship status. Someone even thinks he's a pop idol. A boy, Ryu Igarashi, notices Yuya feels overwhelmed and suggests his classmates should give him some space. He is grateful and Ryu explains everyone, including him, is just curious about him. Yuya thinks Ryu is blinding and Ryu invites him to have lunch together in the cafeteria. Yuya thinks he's arrived in heaven when he smells the delicious food. Their classmate, Shingo, waves and welcomes them to sit at his table and they comply. He greets Yuya quite warmly and Ryu talks to him about the latest episode of Super Heavy Mecha Lord Godroba. I'd forget the name halfway. Ryu praises Shingo's choice and Yuya is surprised they watch anime. Ryu has been hooked ever since Shingo's recommendations. Yuya suddenly feels like everyone is staring at him because of his different uniform, but Ryu believes it is because of his handsome face. They discuss club activities and Yuya is surprised to find Ryu is in the Going Home Club. Obviously, he's great at every sport and was invited to every club, but he couldn't pick just one. Shingo, meanwhile, is in the Games Club and reveals his Nintendo. Yuya is shocked they're allowed to bring it to school and Shingo says it's because the teachers know they won't use their gadgets during class. The three of them decide to play together. That evening, Yuya tells Tsukasa he loved his time spent at the academy, but what struck him was that all the students seemed to be having fun. More importantly, they all treated him like a human being as an equal. It's depressing his standards are so low. Finally, he decides to properly attend Aosei Academy. Kaori, too, is pleased with his decision and asks him to stop by the shops with her as most students do after school. She takes him to quite a posh area where occasionally some of the shops are even featured on TV shows. He's certain she's quite popular and has a lot of friends, but is surprised when she says other students don't hang out with her much. Because of her family and father's work, they stay reserved around her, but she wanted to try and be friends with him. They buy delicious snacks from a stall. He's glad he converted the drops from the other world. This makes him want to try everything on the menu, but he's afraid he'll return to his previous weight. This makes him wonder how Kaori was able to recognize him since there was a stark difference in his appearance from the convenience store. However, she doesn't seem to notice and says his eyes are the same, so she knew it was him right away. It really is all in the eyes. She sweetly offers that they exchange their food since that would help them get closer to their goal of finishing everything on the menu. He doesn't say anything since he's awkward, but his unresponsiveness makes her embarrassed and she quickly sits back down. He offers his food to her to make her comfortable and the people nearby think they're just the cutest couple. The day after his trial enrollment, Yuya returns to the other world since he thinks he might be too busy after he officially enrolls. Yeah, he's already dreaming of becoming a big shot. He is greeted by a vicious monster that he kills in one fatal strike. Yuya goes through his stats and he's an OP level 235 with numerous skills and titles. However, he is now leveling up way slower than in the beginning and realizes he won't be able to do any better if he stays so close to the house and needs to venture forward. There must be more powerful monsters on the other side of the fence and thus, he'd get the chance to improve his skills. He steps out full of motivation and energy when he hears the screams of men dying. What a great way to start a new adventure! He draws his black lance, runs out a little distance, and is shocked to see twisted bodies and corpses lying on the forest floor. He sees a green humanoid monster standing over them with its back turned. It turns around, revealing its glowing red eyes and fangs, and walks towards Yuya. He sees a pretty disheveled girl, clung to a tree, cowering in fear of the monster. He throws his weapon toward the creature to distract it, and while the monster deflects, Yuya lands a dangerous kick in its face, spurting black blood. The monster is knocked out. I don't think he can wait to talk to the girl. He turns toward her, surprised that there are humans in this world too, when she warns him to look out as the monster strikes him again. He receives a damaging blow and thinks the situation is bad since he can't compete with the monster in speed or size. However, he is determined and now knows he has strengths that only he has, and this means he needs to make the most of his abilities. He charges toward the monster, attacks it with his spear, and then jumps in the air. Yuya summons his bow and showers it with magic arrows and finally uses the Ami sword to slice the entire creature in half. The horrible creature disappears, and after all that heroic effort, the girl he saved just falls unconscious as he asks her if she's alright. Talk about a tough audience. She weakly asks who he is before passing out permanently, and he worriedly picks her up to carry her to safety. Maybe he should consider a career in personal training, because carrying people around is great exercise. The story continues with a short memory of what happened in the forest, when MC defeated the monsters who had slain a girl's guards and nearly the girl herself. As MC irons his clothes, he wonders if she was all right. After he went invisible, it did look like people came to help her, so he decides not to worry about it. As he sits there, he looks down at his clothes and realizes even though he washes it every day, he's got more money now, so he should probably buy some other clothes. He decides to go to the mall where, as usual, all the girls are gawking at him. According to his stats, his clothes don't get dirty, but regardless, he doesn't want to look like he's wearing the same clothes every day. He's so hot. Think he's an actor. Some people shout. MC notices everyone staring at him, so he nervously adjusts his hair and speeds up walking. "I'll just take care of things quickly and head home," he murmurs before disappearing around the corner. Elsewhere, a man is angrily shouting at a rather embarrassed-looking staff member. "You can't be serious. What am I supposed to do if you as manager can't keep things together? And this isn't the first time we've had to deal with his lateness, is it? I absolutely hate men who are careless in their work." The manager bows and apologizes before quickly taking a call. "He hasn't read my texts, but I hear he's on his way here," he replies. "You didn't speak to him directly?" The angry man shouts. These people are working for a modeling company, and the angry man is their eccentric photographer. They're here to shoot for a theme called My Hot Boyfriend and Me, a sweet week of heart-pounding shopping in a fashionable district. But the boyfriend model shoe is running late as usual. While the group sit in their changing rooms, the photographer's assistants try to convince him to delay the shoot by an hour, but he's determined to get things going on time since the girlfriend model Miu has been ready since the morning. When Miu protests, she's not really worried. The photographer tells her not to spoil a shoot like that. Not to mention the other staff here have things to do after this shoot. Everyone would like to get things started, but as the theme implies, they can't do anything without a proper boyfriend model. With no other choice, they decide to look for a hot guy in the mall. Any guesses who they'll end up hooking up with? Just like most guys, MC finds himself completely lost in the clothes department, overwhelmed by the large selection. There are this many kinds. I'm completely lost. Two girls come up behind him asking if he has free time. "If you're here to buy clothes, do you mind if we go with you? How old are you? Are you a student?" MC thought they were going to try and pressure him into buying something, so he's a bit relieved. Unfortunately, he still has to respectively decline their offers since he severely lacks the confidence to do anything remotely romantic. I'll have to turn them down respectfully. At times like these, I need to make sure they don't feel bad because of me, so I have to be as politeful as possible. Brushing aside a bit of his hair and literally radiating God energy, he turns to them and apologizes. "I'm really sorry, but I have other plans today." And with that, he leaves them standing in a daze thinking he's literally a god. Meanwhile, two paths are about to cross as the photographer and a few aides walk through the mall, looking for someone photogenic to use for their shoot. While the assistant is panicking and doesn't seem to think things will work out, the photographer himself insists everything will be fine, since they've even taken snapshots of amateurs before. As MC goes down the escalators, wondering if those two girls will be fine, the photographer nearly chokes upon seeing him. Guess who ends up with me half a second later? The photographer nabs him and explains the situation to him, how instead of using the idiot shoe who will probably show up late with a hangover, they want him to help them get the shoot over with now. MC doesn't mind helping if they're okay with it being him, so the group are soon off. MC and Miu pose for a bunch of shots while the photographer takes pictures of them, including scenes in the garden, a fancy restaurant, a ball pit, a lounge, or just hanging out. Be cuter. The photographer shouts, completely enthralled with what he's doing. MC starts getting really nervous and Miu tells him, if it's your first time, it's okay to be nervous. Of course, she doesn't seem to realize just how beautiful she is since MC's eyes keep getting distracted by her melons and her lips. "You really saved us," she whispers while they pose. With everyone's schedules, this was the only time that was available. MC isn't listening to this plot exposition since he's tall enough. Looking down, he can see her melon gap. This flustered appearance makes him stiffen and the photographer has them move to the stairs. Miu is amazing. We're not that different in ages, but she's working so much more effectively. I can't stand around being nervous and being a burden on everyone. With that resolve and Miu clinging to his arm, pressing her melons against him, the shoot continues. Every one of her poses make MC freak out even more, but the photographer doesn't seem bothered. On the bright side, they're working with good materials, so the shoot should end on schedule. Back in the fantasy world, the princess MC saved seems to be fixated on finding him. She jumps out of bed and barges through her guard's room. "Princess, where are you going?" They shout. She only hesitates for a single second. "Back to him, of course," she replies. "The person who saved me in the darkest regions." When the guards try to persuade her, the forest isn't a place where humans can live, she declares she wants to find him since, as a member of the royal court, it's only natural she has to express her gratitude to the person who saved her life. Her head guard tells her to stop being rash, as this is obviously a dangerous thing to do. "Don't worry," she replies. "Today all of you will be coming with me." Now back to the photo shoot, where some aides bring MC and Miu something to drink. "I'm sorry for getting you wrapped up in all of this," Miu says. "Are you tired?" MC starts coughing before he can speak, and Miu just giggles and hands him a napkin. "There's no need to be so nervous," she assures him. MC takes some time to calm down before he responds. "Spending all day today taught me how difficult working as a model is," he says. "You really are amazing, Miu." She tells him she's used to it and made a ton of mistakes too when she started. People got angry at her then, but over time she's gotten much better at it. MC admits he's never worn anything fashionable in the past, since he spent his entire life with no connection to anything like fashion. So even if he saw models in magazines, that world was so different from his that he never really thought about it. That world looks so different from him, but he never knew models and their staff were working so hard in the background. He asks Miu why she began working as a model, and she confesses she just wants to be seen after her parents never really showed her any attention. Even though she doesn't think she's that impressive, she's got fans who said they were cheering her on and even sent her letters. Seeing herself in magazines and getting support from others are what really make her happy. If other people were inspired by her or wanted to go down the fashion path because of her, then I'd be really glad. She advises MC to take every moment and enjoy it to its fullest, and to take things at his own pace, since there's no need to rush. Miu's encouragement makes the rest of their photo shoot go by quite successfully. That is until the tardy model, Shu, shows up, which immediately makes her uncomfortable. The onlookers gawk at how handsome he is, but the man has got quite the rotten personality. He lumbers up to Miu, insulting the photo shoot profession, and pressures her to go drink with him despite not being of age. When MC tries to step in and defend her, Shu goes to punch him and MC easily flips him, slamming him into the ground. Everyone immediately starts cheering at how cool he is, while Shu is confronted with a recording of the entire thing. With this incident, his career is over now. Miu thanks MC for helping her out and says Shu has been stalking her all this time. They resolve to report it to their agency director, while the photographer asks MC to work for them as a model. Unfortunately, he declines their offer, citing he doesn't feel confident enough for the job. The photographer doesn't press this any further and gifts him a few bags of hand-picked clothes as thanks for the day. MC protests a little but gratefully accepts. The groups then part ways while Miu watches MC leave. On the car ride home, Miu stares at pictures of their shoot, blushing and saying he was such an unusual person and she would love to work with him again. Seeing this, the photographer points out she might have feelings for him, which she declines, embarrassed. At home, MC looks at the clothes he obtained before re-entering the other world. And just in time too. The knights the princess and her guard captain Owen brought are in trouble, surrounded by monsters. As one of them towers above her, MC appears, easily slashing the creature in half. He single-handedly wipes the floor with the rest of the monsters while the princess looks on. "I knew it. He did come," she thinks, blushing and her heart beating so loud it could be called the King Engine, or rather the Princess Engine. While MC goes to tend to the wounded and the guard captain Owen looks on in shock, the princess hurries over to him and tells him there's something important she needs to tell him. After gathering herself, she asks MC to marry her. Yuya stands awkwardly in front of Lexia, as her guards seem to think she has lost her mind. She plans to propose to Yuya. Well-Led explains his reaction as the guard wonders why she would voice such an absurd thought. He is thinking of her exalted position, and even though he has just saved her life, the idea just seems too far-fetched. She is confident it is love at first sight, which is why she is mad at the guard for his constant nagging, and the two argue some more. Yuya is exhausted by now and suggests it is not safe in case the monsters decide to return and invites them to his house in the woods. They're both surprised he lives in the forest. The dudes from another world give him a break. They return to his house and the guard is shocked to see it is located within the darkest region. Yuya serves them tea and the man officially introduces himself as Owen, the captain of the Knights of the Arcelia Kingdom, while the girl is Princess Lexia von Arcelia. She thanks Yuya for rescuing them, and he is shocked to discover her royal status as Owen explains she is second in line to the throne. He is worried he might have been too frank with her. There's always the possibility he could be executed for being too nice to her. But Owen assures him this is just an official visit. Owen is a little doubtful of Yuya's identity since his name is unfamiliar, but Lexia interrupts saying they have been looking for him ever since he saved her life. She wanted to thank him in person. She passed out the last time they met and claims to have feelings for him as she extends an offer of marriage. Of course, Yuya refuses. Who would be stupid enough to reject a princess, and says he's not ready for marriage. Lexia launches into a speech about the obstacles of love and decides to settle for being just his friend. Yuya agrees, and since her gratitude to her rescuer has been conveyed, Owen decides it is time for them to leave. Lexia waves at him from her carriage, promising to win his heart in her next visit. However, before leaving, Owen relays the king's message to Yuya. His Majesty wants to thank him in person and thus has summoned him to the royal palace. This is all too sudden for him. Only he could think so much before accepting an invitation to the palace. So he hesitates at first, but Owen is persistent because he doesn't want to go against a royal command. He requests 5 days of Yuya's time according to his choice, and he finally agrees. The attack on Lexia was planned by a member of the royal family to exact revenge, and the assassin sent after her was able to separate her from the knights. However, they then strayed into the darkest regions where they encountered quite dangerous monsters, but surprisingly she is still alive. Yuya marks the date on his calendar for his meeting with the king and puts on his uniform to attend Aussie Academy. On his way, people stare at him in awe. They literally treat him like a popular celebrity. He arrives at school and Tsukasa congratulates him for being formally enrolled as he wishes his new student to enjoy his life. Miss Sawada reintroduces him to the class since his trial is over, and Ryu and Shingo wave at him. Seems like they'd been friends forever. The students are playing soccer during sports and Ryu seems unstoppable as he scores one goal after the other and his classmates cheer him on. Yuya sits and observes the match from the sides since his gym clothes haven't arrived yet. He makes a comment about what an amazing player Ryu is when a pretty girl from his class approaches him and introduces herself as Kaede Kazama and said she's pleased to meet him. Dude really hit the jackpot at this school. She insists he call her by her first name, and their attention is diverted by Ryu, who's apparently surrounded by the opposite team's players. Of course, they are no match for him as he scores another goal. Suddenly, one of the other students kicks the ball too hard, and it is aimed right towards Kaede. I wonder who's going to save her. However, Yuya apprehends the ball just in time, kicks it away, obviously it lands straight in the goal, and rescues her. Everyone stares in shock at his incredible move, and the boy who kicked the ball bows down to Kaede, offering to serve her till the end of time for his carelessness. It is one of those things you'd only see in an anime. The boy thanks Yuya, introduces himself as Akira Ichinose, and Ryu hopes they can all be friends. Later, while Kaede is in the changing room, she overhears the girls gossip about the wonderful stunt Yuya has pulled. They continue to say he's great at sports and so kind, just the perfect qualities for their fairy tale prince. Just then, Kaori enters and everyone swarms her with praises of Yuya as Kaede narrates a lively reenactment of the whole situation. The conversation steers toward how someone with his good looks and personality definitely has a girlfriend. Well, a princess did just propose to him, and each of them starts to wonder what she's like. Kaori gets triggered and shouts that they don't know anything about his love life to say for sure. However, she is left feeling insecure because she has feelings for him. Later that afternoon, while Yuya is in class, he looks out the window and sees Kaori, so he waves at her. She waves back, but suddenly, the metal gate in the ground breaks as several people on heavy bikes enter and surround the girls present there. The teacher announces this as a time for self-studying and instructs them not to move as he goes to check on the situation, as if the main character is going to listen. All the faculty are troubled by the motorcyclists causing chaos in the school, and the students in the class recognize them as the Red Ogres, a band of notorious delinquents. Everyone is perplexed as to what they could possibly want when Yuya recognizes the name Red Ogres as Araki's gang who bullied him at his previous school. Unfortunately, Tsukasa isn't present on the premises, and surprisingly, the gang is accompanied by Sora and Yuta, who recognize her as the chairman's daughter. Kaori asks them why they're doing this, and they say it would give them relief to mess her up. They're really messed up in the head. Moreover, they want revenge for only allowing their idiot brother to join their academy. Now that's the real reason. Kaori tells them the police will be here soon. However, they are undeterred as they shamelessly plan to abduct her before their arrival. Yuta claims to have business with Yuya as Ryu and Shingo think of ways to help everyone. Yuya is still watching from the classroom window and tries to run to help Kaori, but his legs seem frozen in place out of fear. He's fought much tougher monsters, so it doesn't make sense for him to be afraid of a school bully. He wonders if it is only his body that has grown stronger, but his heart is as weak as ever and his vision spirals momentarily. When he opens his eyes, he sees Kaede, Ryu, and the rest of his classmates as he opens the window and jumps directly off the 4th floor. Landing perfectly, he approaches Araki, who doesn't waste a moment in passing a snide remark aimed at Yuya and sends his goons after him. Yuya easily fights them off by knocking their clubs and bats onto the ground. Araki threatens to smash his face. Well, he can try all he wants, but Yuya dodges only to be stopped by a big, strong man. Once more, Yuya has no difficulty holding the man back with just one hand as he sends him flying, crashing into the bikes. He walks towards Kaori and makes sure she's not injured when one of the goons starts riding his bike towards him at full speed because he doesn't want anyone to look down upon the Red Ogres. Well, it may be a bit too late for that since they've been defeated single-handedly. Yuya dodges in one swift stride, and the man furiously tries to hit him again, but Yuya is too powerful for him and causes him to crash into the school building along with his bike. He lies defeated on the steps of the building as everyone stares at him in awe. Sometime later, ambulances and the police arrive as Yuya asks Kaori if she was afraid. However, she responds by saying she believed in him with all her heart, knowing he would rescue her, so she stayed strong. She faints right in front of him and he catches her in his arms. The teachers announce it is time for them to return to their lessons, and the students take their seats. As the gangsters are rounded up and tied by the police, Yuta is furious at them and calls the Red Ogres useless. However, the biker grabs him by the throat, blaming him for his insult since Yuta had planned the whole thing. Sora tries to stop him and begs him to let her brother go, but he just kicks her away. Yuya, being the kind soul that he is, pushes the bully away from his younger brother and makes sure he is alright as he coughs and wheezes after being choked. Yuta is shocked by Yui's kindness, especially because he's never done anything but degrade him and conspired with others like Araki to make his life a living hell. Looks like his conscience will finally catch up to him. The bully tries to move towards Yuya and aims a strike at him, but is knocked down before he can get up as everyone wonders what exactly happened to him. When did Yuya learn to move faster than light? Sora and Yuta stand with their heads down, embarrassed in front of Yuya, asking why he saved them after they tormented him so much. Yuya admits he's been through a lot of hardships, and he still hasn't forgiven them for their cruelty, but there's absolutely no way he could just abandon his family. Good deeds pay off after all. Sora and Yuta crumble to their knees, apologizing and begging for forgiveness as they cry uncontrollably. Kaori looks at them from afar thinking of Yuya. She is the first one who ever cared about him,